Hey everyone, John from Nintendo Life here, and let's change things up a little bit because I've been doing this for a while now. Why don't you tell me what games are coming in November for a change? No, Balan Wonderworld was March. Fine, I'll do it. Kicking it off on November 2nd is World War Z, which I want to call World War Z. Joining Doom, Wolfenstein, and The Witcher 3, this is another Impossible port. It's pretty detailed on other platforms like PS4 and Xbox One, but the zombie hordes are what really sets it apart. These swarms dominate the screen, there are hundreds upon hundreds at a time, and somehow, it's running on the Switch. They've even got it from 25GB on PS4 to 6.7GB on Switch. They're witches, they are zombie witches, somebody burn them. The lead designer even says there doesn't need to be a more powerful Switch, this is enough, somehow, for this. Very impressive stuff, but what is this game? Well, it's been on other consoles for a few years now, but basically, it's kinda like a third-person Left 4 Dead. It's meant to be played co-op, and you just take down zombie after zombie until they're all gone. If the name sounds familiar too, this is based off the World War Z property. There's no Brad Pitt this time around, but this is still a game worth keeping an eye on. On the same day, November 2nd, is Toonshi. You may recognize this from Indie World, and this was a successful Kickstarter campaign. It's basically a beat-em-up with some roguelike elements. There are 4 worlds that are procedurally generated, making each playthrough feel a little bit different. And while the core cast revolves around the Amazon rainforest, there's also Hat Kid from A Hat in Time, so they're here too. It looks like a beautiful co-op game, and each character and playthrough looks drastically different to the point that whenever you play, you're probably going to experience something a little bit new. Previews have spoken highly of the combat too, so this seems like a game that's primed to deliver. And hey, this is small, but great. This game has 12 different languages. That's something we don't really talk about very often, but that's amazing. And then on November 4th is Demon Turf, and this is actually a game I've already played myself. It comes from the developers of Slime-san, and that was an amazing early Switch game, but this is so much more ambitious. It's a full-on 3D platformer with a very charming art style, but the main hook is how versatile it feels. There's some clear influence like the triple jump and the backflip and the wall jump, but this game is more than just influence. It very much has its own identity and personality, and it's catered too towards speedrunners. You play as a young demon who can transform into a bunch of different things like a bat or a bird, and this makes your movements so varied and versatile. You can achieve some really impressive things, and speedrunners even before the game has come out are already achieving crazy stuff. Beyond how it plays, it's just so charming and well designed, and there's some great new ideas like being able to put checkpoints anywhere you want rather than it being predetermined. There's lots of side objectives like photo hunts and reasons to explore previous levels. It just feels complete, original, and fun to play. We're going to be reviewing this one soon, but just personally speaking, this might be one of the best 3D platformers in a very long time. But also on November 4th is Just Dance 2022, baby! Yeah! Oh man, there are so many hit songs like Last Friday Night by Katy Perry, oh, classic. You've also got Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake. Chandelier by Sia, anyone? I've been a long follower of the Just Dance series, and I can't wait to see where the story goes with this one. But November 4th won't stop because the only game with a dedicated hug button is coming to Switch, A Boy and His Blob. This was a Wii remake of an NES game, and now it's in HD on the Switch, and it looks beautiful. This is an amazing puzzle platformer, where basically you feed your blob jelly beans, and then it transforms, giving you different abilities, like a ladder or a big bubble. The Wii has a lot of hidden gems, but just personally speaking, this has always been one of the most charming games on the entire system, and I can't wait for it to have another chance with a new audience. It can be a bit old school with its platforming, but there's definitely a charm to that. And if you get frustrated, just hug your blob. Just hug it out. It's a beautiful game that's so well designed, so please don't sleep on this one. And then on November 5th is Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise. This is DLC costing $25, or you get it as part of the Switch Online expansion pass, so technically some of you may already have this, kinda. This is essentially the sequel to the 3DS game Happy Home Designer, only now it's tied to the main Animal Crossing game. Villagers will desire a holiday home, and you basically design it to their tastes and personality. It adds a bit of objective to Animal Crossing. Rather than just living your own life how you see fit, you kind of play a game now. The building tools look much more versatile, and there's some brand new objects like wall dividers. These look really ambitious. I'm a player who designed his home and then didn't really touch it again because I liked it the way it was. so this kind of gives me a chance to express more designs without tampering with what I've already done. It just seems like a great way to really get creative. But of course, it's not just the paid DLC. On the same day, there's a bunch of free content too. So much free content that it's basically the reboot of New Horizons. But there's also a ton of new items and gyroids and so much more to do. This will be a very busy day. On November 11th is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Now this game is getting a full-on remake for PlayStation 5, but the original game holds up. This was originally an Xbox and PC exclusive, so it's amazing to see it finally come to Nintendo. It's been long heralded as one of the best Star Wars games ever made, and given that it's made by BioWare, it's fairly understandable why. BioWare and Star Wars is a match made in heaven. This is a roughly 30-hour-long RPG, and your decisions can alter drastically the course of the game. You can either use the Force for good, or pretty much join the dark side. It's still one of the most expansive and versatile Star Wars games ever made, and while the remake will surely look better than this, there's still a lot of value in the original Knights of the Old Republic. But there's another classic game on November 11th, or should I say classic games, because Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition, yes there's 2 thus in there, is coming to Switch. We haven't seen raw Switch-specific gameplay yet, so how it runs on the system is still kind of up in the air, but the multi-platform trailer looks pretty ambitious. They've taken GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas and basically remade them in Unreal Engine 4. It's a funny kind of remake though, because while everything looks very modern, it's also very much in the roots of the PlayStation 2 era. There's some great lighting effects, and all the textures have pretty much been redone, but then the character models are these big blocky things. It's an interesting look, and I kinda dig it. It's not the first Nintendo GTA, we had them on Game Boy Color, and of course the DS had Chinatown Wars, my personal favourite. But it is the first time Nintendo's had an expansive 3D GTA. It's a pretty big deal, so hopefully these ports end up being good. It does seem like there'll be some care, as the Switch version has gyro controls, unlike PS5 and Series X. Also, the shooting controls are more like GTA 5, and that's a godsend because the original games are pretty hard to go back to, you just kind of like flail your guns around, so I'm pretty excited for this. But November 12th is a big boy, Shin Megami Tensei 5. If you've been around the Switch era for a while, you may recognize this game as one of the very first games announced for the platform. Yeah, January 2017 was a long time ago, but finally, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is about to release. Now, this probably won't be the best-selling game of the year, but it is going to be one of the biggest games of the year. Shin Megami Tensei is a huge deal. For those who don't know, Persona is a Shin Megami Tensei spin-off. It's a sub-series. So SMT5 is next in the line of the main series. We haven't had a new console entry since the PlayStation 2. Shin Megami Tensei 4 was on 3DS, and that was great, but it's time to return to the scope of a console. And also for those who don't know, SMT predated Pokemon. This was pretty much the game that invented monster collecting and RPGs. You do fight by yourself, but you can collect a bunch of different monsters to fight alongside you. So think Pokemon, but if the trainer wasn't a coward. I'm really looking forward to this. This could end up being one of the best Switch exclusives ever. And on the same day as Shin Megami Tensei on November 12th is the Zelda Game & Watch. Yeah, not really a Switch game, but it is very Nintendo-y. So if you've forgotten about this is basically very similar to the Mario Game & Watch from last year, apart from instead of Super Mario Bros, it has The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, and Link's Awakening. But you mustn't forget, it also has the Game & Watch game Vermin, where you play as Link. It's a pretty neat looking device. I was hoping it would mirror the actual Zelda Game & Watch, but the shell is pretty much the exact same as Mario. That said, the original Game Boy Link's Awakening is a really cool surprise, given that outside of the 3DS Virtual Console, there's no way of playing that game. Unlike the remake, it's not on the Switch. It's by no means a must-have device, but for Zelda fans, this seems like a really nice collectible. But then on November 16th is Marsupilami Hoob Adventure. I have no history with this franchise. Apparently it started as a comic back in the 50s, and there's been a bunch of TV shows, but somehow, Marsupilami has avoided my life. However, this game looks like Donkey Kong, and I'm okay with that. Look how colourful this game is, it looks super cozy. Even as someone who doesn't know why this guy's tail is so long, I'm into it. Big Tropical Freeze vibes, from the movement, the level design, to the art direction. It looks like it could be a really neat 2D platformer, and it's coming to other platforms too, so those on PS5 and Xbox can finally enjoy a Donkey Kong style game. Really cool stuff. And on November 19th comes NASCAR Heat Ultimate Edition Plus. This is the first NASCAR game to come to the Switch, and if we're honest, the Switch is kind of lacking in racing sims. There's a couple, but it's slim pickings. It doesn't seem like it would set the world on fire, but having things like local multiplayer I can't take for granted, as very few games these days have split screen. It's been around 10 years since the last NASCAR Nintendo game, so if you want to catch up on around 10 seasons of NASCAR action, this is the game for you. And I know we're all busy with NASCAR on that day, but also on November 19th is Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. These are ground-up remakes of the original Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, and while the reception is a bit divided, it at least refines the dated elements of the originals. For one, no more HMs. I'm sure Bidoof will be in your party, but there's no need to rely on them for cut and surf and waterfall. HM slaves are a thing of the past. Thank God. And while the chibi art style has people at war with each other, I quite like it, it's cute. It's definitely not an art style I'd want to frame on my wall, but it's still quite appealing to me at least. If anything though, every mainline Pokemon on the Switch has a very different style, like Let's Go is clearly different to Sword and Shield, and Sword and Shield is very clearly different to these games too. And then in a few months there's Legends. You can also customize your clothing, which you couldn't do in the original games, and that's cool too. But for the most part, this does seem like a very loyal remake. Random encounters are still here. There are overworld encounters in Pokemon Hideaways, but that's quite divided from the main game. So if you just kind of want a loyal 3D HD remake of Pokemon Gen 4, this is that with a few quality of life improvements. Probably won't blow us away, but it does seem like it's worth playing. And then on November 23rd is Death's Door. This came to Xbox and PC earlier in the year, but in the most recent state of play, it was the only worthwhile announcement, and we found out it's also coming to Switch. For those who don't know though, Death's Door is a gorgeous action game. There's no procedural elements, everything is handcrafted to a very fine degree. It's not a roguelike, everything is very deliberate. Prepare for some very visceral combat with some great weight to it, a mix of ranged and melee weapons, everything has a distinct feel. And then the exploration too has a brilliant flow to it, with will to explore more lore of the world. And boss battles don't disappoint, there's some brilliant moments in here. I can't wait for this game to go multi-platform, it really is a gem of 2021. And finally, on November 25th is Asterix and Obelix, Slap Them All. The beat-em-up genre's had a bit of a resurgence lately, with Streets of Rage 5 and Battletoads and even Scott Pilgrim coming back. It's been a really good time, and out of nowhere comes a new Asterix game. Not only does this look artistically brilliant, but the combat itself looks very weighty. Co-op is just 1 to 2 players local, but still, that's the best way to play these kind of games. It looks like it really dives deep into the license, and I can't wait to give this one a go. So what November games are you looking forward to? There's some big games on this list like Shin Megami Tensei and GTA that I can't wait to try myself. But before we go, there is something I promised I would do in the month of October. So for those who have missed it or don't remember, this is what I promised I would do. If 3 isn't in this direct, then I'm gonna make a deep dive into DKC 3. That's how confident I am.
Good lord.
I am an honest man of my word, so here is Donkey Kong Country 3. That's a pretty deep dive. And we'll see you next time. Bye everyone!